Hey guys, welcome to the Senior Care Conversation. I am your host, Hilary Bailey. This is the space where we talk real solutions for aging with dignity, clarity, and confidence. From healthcare to housing to financial security, we bring in the experts who help you prepare, plan, and protect what matters most. I am super excited about our guest today. It is Joe Reyes, a seasoned CPA and founder of JL Reyes Accounting and Tax CPAs. With over 15 years leading his own firm and decades in the financial world, Joe helps families take control of their future. He holds degrees from Pace and Drexel, plus a master's in theology, and he brings a thoughtful, proactive approach to planning that blends numbers with real-life needs. Joe, welcome to the Senior Care Conversation. We are so happy to have you. So I'm going to just jump in. I'm going to jump in with you. This is a very important question. So why do so many people underestimate the cost of care, and how can they plan ahead?
Yeah, so medical care, huh? You don't know what you don't know, right? A lot of people, as they age, they start to think about, I need to make sure that I have enough for my copays and I have enough to pay for prescriptions and whatnot. And, they think that, Social Security, Medicare, is going to take care of, their medical needs. But who amongst us likes to think about the worst case scenario, right? Who amongst us likes to think that, hey, one day I may be in a nursing home and I may be in there for a long time. It may actually be the last place that I reside in, not realizing that a long-term facility can cost four, five, 10, $12,000 a month.
Mm-hmm.
And that becomes another animal to start thinking about. So for instance, if you have $500,000 in the bank, you think to yourself, well, I got $500,000 in the bank for medical expenses. If something happens, I've got that covered. I have insurance. I have Medicare. Not realizing that, Medicare doesn't cover long-term care. Medicaid does, but otherwise you're on your own, and you don't know that, hey, I'm going to be spending. You're going to be spending a lot of money taking care of yourself if you wind up in a facility, and so. It's just not, it's just the kind of thinking that's short term and not long term. And then thinking about the long term, okay, well, what is that realistically going to look like? And, in this day and age of, internet and, AI and all kinds of tools that we have at our disposal, it's not that hard to figure out what is a realistic long-term care, a long-term health plan, medical plan, crisis emergency plan going to look like. So it's an unpleasant thought, and I get that. Who likes to think about themselves, dying? Nobody likes to think about that. So they don't think about, what has to be done in the event of or on the way towards that, right? But all you need to do is get sick today, really sick, and get a doctor's bill, medical bill from a hospital. You can figure out pretty quickly, medical expenses are high, and also over the years, the inflation factor on medical expenses is much higher than, let's say, food and gasoline.
Mm.
So it's very easy to not to get sucked into a pattern of thinking that, oh, medical expenses are keeping track with their average standard of living until, something happens.
Gotcha. So I love what you said about only having $500,000 in the bank. I mean, even in the business that I do, we do caregiving in the home. If you want a year's worth of good caregiving service, you're going to spend $300,000 if you need 24/7 care. I mean, that's just, that's the long and short of it. So, I get what you're saying, that $500,000 is not going to go far, especially if you want to stay in your home. So tell us, what are some of the financial tools or strategies that can help prepare for big medical bills now?
Yeah, so depending on your age, if you're young enough to and you're working and your employer offers you a, let's say, a high deductible health plan. A high deductible health plan enables you to invest in an HSA, health savings account. In my case, for instance, I'm 67, I'm healthy, my wife is working, she likes to work, we have insurance through my wife, right? But her job, does not give her a high deductible health plan, so I can't get into a health savings account as a result. But the sweetness of a health savings account is that If you have a high deductible health insurance plan, you can sock money away up to certain limits, let's say $7,000, $8,000 a year for a family plan.
Mm-hmm.
You can sock away. It's an IRA. It's a pre-tax IRA, except that it's for medical expenses. And so you can sock money away, take a deduction in your tax return, and you can invest that money into the stock market, into whatever your HSA administrator allows you to invest in. And over the years, that's going to compound, right? So
Mm-hmm.
the sooner you start, the better chances you have of accumulating hundreds of thousands of dollars in HSA funds that when you go take them out, let's say you wind up in a nursing home or whatever, you can take that money out, never pay tax, never pay a dollar in tax. So it's pre-tax, it grows tax deferred, and you never pay tax for the money coming out. So you can have $500,000 in that account. You wind up in a nursing home, you can just take the money out and pay the nursing home, $300,000, and you had the benefit of not paying less tax, letting it grow, because taxes are the number one killer of wealth, right? So if you can control that piece, you can grow money much, much faster. So that's one thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
Another thing you can do is maybe create a trust. So there are different types of trusts. I'm not a lawyer. I know enough to be dangerous, but I know you can have like something called a revocable living trust, which doesn't help you with Medicaid. But you can have something called an irrevocable trust, and there are different types.
Mm-hmm.
But an irrevocable trust is one in which you can transfer, let's say, your house into that trust. After 5 years of that house being in a trust, in an irrevocable trust, um, you it's as if you don't own it. And Medicaid, in order for you to be entitled to Medicaid benefits, which is what pays for long-term care, by the way, but that's designed for low-income people or people who appear to be low income. So you can have an irrevocable trust. Of course, savings, proper planning, investment planning with a financial planner is my strongest recommendation. Putting money consistently into a savings account over the years for that emergency fund. And that emergency fund hopefully won't happen, when you're in your 40s. It'll happen when you're much elderly and something serious happens to you. So things like that. But the financial planning side, the big one is the planning, right? If
Mm-hmm.
you fail to plan, you
You
plan to
plan to
fail,
fail.
right? So the planning piece, you just do that with financial professionals on the tax side, CPA or tax pro, a lawyer for an irrevocable trust, one who specializes in trust, not somebody, a general lawyer who doesn't specialize in trust, because they can create a trust in a heartbeat, but it may not have all the bells and whistles you need. And then, of course, somebody to help you invest your money properly and stagger your investments so that you have money for when you retire, you have money for when if you wind up in a nursing home. Also, long-term care. I'm a big fan of long-term care. Again, I'm 67. I've had long-term care since I was in my early 50s, and the premium has gone up. But I know, my wife and I both know that we are entitled to a fair amount of benefits. So combining long-term care with these other things, you have a shot at at a very decent long-term care situation if should it happen. Now, long-term care, if nothing happens and you die before you ever go into a nursing home, those are premiums you paid you're never going to get back. You're not going to enjoy the benefits unless you get a long-term care policy that offers you return of premium.
Gotcha.
So, no, there are things you can do. I mean, it's just uh, doing it early enough, planning it, being thoughtful about it, and engaging the right people to assist you.
Well, Joe, you're making me feel very smart. Our financial planner did tell us to get long term care insurance. So let me just ask you about that. There are different, you hear different things from different people. So sometimes people say, well, you don't need to get long term care insurance until you're in your 50s or 60s because you don't want to be paying out all that money because what if you don't ever need it?
Right.
It's a lot more expensive when you wait until your 50s and 60s. So in your opinion, what is the best age to start looking at insurance like that, long term care insurance?
Well, so you can get a life insurance policy with a long-term
Mm-hmm.
care rider. And the earlier you get a life insurance policy and the healthier you are, the lower the premiums. So that's something to seriously look at. So you can start very early on in your, in your career, as you get going. But certainly 50s, early 60s.
Okay.
That's when, that's going to be the time. By that time, hopefully, you're not at the end of your career, but by that time, many people who've been diligent in their financial matters are starting to see liquidity, able to save more. Maybe they already raised kids. Maybe they've progressed in their careers, and they're starting to enjoy the benefits of a good career and quality life. And things happen to people, and yeah, you can wind up back to square one when you're 45 years old. That happens, but barring any extreme circumstances, starting early 50s is a good time. That's when we started, and the premium has been going up over the years. It is now double per year what it was back when I was at my early 50s, but that's just inevitable. But the price of not doing long-term care could be disastrous financially to you and to who you leave behind.
Yeah, it can be bankrupting. I mean, that's just truthful. I feel like, I don't know if you agree with that, but it can be bankrupting.
I do.
Yeah, it can be bankrupting. So, Joe, that is amazing information. Thank you so much. And guys, we are going to be back in just a minute with more from Mr. Reyes. We'll be right back with more insight, expert advice, and stories that matter to every generation. Good job, Joe.
Thank you.